Hello and welcome back to the Bring 'em It podcast. Well, I'll tell you what we're doing for today's podcast in a second. But how is everyone? I haven't really asked. We just sort of turn up, we talk, and we don't actually ask what we've been doing. What have we been doing independently?
Well, I've been working. That's about it.
Oh, the same answer as last week, Tom.
Yeah, well, there's not much else to it, you know.
Boring.
I had a good session of Among Us last night. That was quite fun.
I was part of that session. Very fun.
You were indeed.
Go on, Rory.
As you know, I can't do much independently. I need help to the toilet and things like that. So I've not been doing much this week.
Did they manage to fix your toilet frame or not?
No, I crashed through that after the Vindaloo I had the other night, as you know.
Oh.
It's a shame, yeah.
But these things happen, so we move.
Just get a less spicy version.
Yeah, but it's just not the same, is it?
That
And I like a bit
the same as a Vindaloo.
I like the spring cleaning, Henry. To be honest, mate, I like the feel of the fiery pits of Tartarus coming out of me. So I think I'll carry on as I am, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I reckon that is all right, Rory.
Good.
Right.
How have you been, Henry? No one asks you.
No one really does ask me, do they? Just because I'm the man who, starts it off. Everyone just thinks I'm a robot, and I'm not a robot. I'm a human being with feelings. I've been using that sleep recorder app. Well, one of them. I'm not going to say which one because no free promos. But it's the sort of thing you put under your bed sheets, and it detects how good your sleep is. Yeah.
Is it good?
Don't fucking know, Tom. Just lines. It gives me a graph. It gives me loads of graphs with ups and downs.
And you have no idea what it means.
Not really. Apparently,
why? What's the point?
Sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah.
My quality of sleep apparently was around about 60%. I don't know how. I mean.
You don't know if that's good or not.
It's a bit annoying because I'm not being funny. I lose consciousness about 1 o'clock, and then it's like, and then I wake up at like 9 o'clock or 8:30 or something like that, and then it just tells me, "Oh, you weren't really sleeping though." It's like, well, I wasn't conscious, and it says it's like giving me little ups and downs, saying, "Oh, you weren't really asleep at this time, mate." What the hell am I going to bed for if I'm not going to be asleep? It's just such a.
Hey, calm down, mate.
It's such a
scam. Henry, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
what was that?
Actually, we should probably introduce the theme. We are going to be doing a Halloween month, which we decided about 2 hours ago, roughly.
It was my idea.
That's a ghost impression. Yeah, it was Tom's idea, actually. Well done, Tom.
Finally brought a good idea to the podcast.
Yeah, finally.
One idea, Rory piping up.
Oh no!
That's my second idea, actually, Tom.
But anyway, I looked at the calendar, and there are 5 Thursdays, and that's a lot of Thursdays to cater for. So we've got 4 ideas at the moment. We need one more. I mean, I don't know if we got enough fans to ask us for suggestions.
Yeah. The 9 of you that listened last week, if you could. It's
more than that now.
Give us an idea.
It just started off quite badly. But anyway, actually, on that note. We are growing. I had a look at the sort of the 3-month graph the other day, and it was slowly and steadily going up. No like ridiculously high bits and then ridiculously low. So we will be cool eventually. But if there's anyone who wants to help things along, just ask your mates. Are you listening to the Bring 'em It podcast? And then if they say no, you got to alienate them. You got to go. Oh, you're rubbish for not listening to the Bring 'em It podcast.
Yeah, that's the wrong word.
Okay. Well, have a go. Then.
If you've got any word, indoctrinate them.
Yeah, or just be cold. Or be cold with them until they.
Yeah, okay. No. It suits our purpose a bit better because they'll follow the podcast.
Look, all I'm saying is, if you've got any mates that are listening to the Bring 'em It podcast, you need to be like appalled at them until they do it. Okay. Because we're desperate. No, I'm joking. Right. Okay. Anyway, the theme for the 1st of October. The 1st of October. So the Halloween month. the opening night of the Halloween month special for the Bring 'em It podcast is we just thought ghost stories is a nice little one to start off with. I don't know how long we went off independently to find our own ghost stories. I don't know how long yours are. Mine are about sort of 2 paragraphs each. They're like little mini ones.
Oh,
what?
Mine are a bit longer than that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Bit of variety, spice of life. You know, you don't just want salt and pepper. You want cumin. You want paprika. You want cinnamon.
Why did you paprika?
Well, I'm just I'm being authentic, mate. Right. I'll tell you what, Rory said you've got like a sort of a fun one just to kick things off because we won't be in the mood eventually.
A light one.
We need to create the mood. We need to sort of ease ourselves into the scary mood, but we're going to take this seriously. Despite how we've started, we are going to take this seriously. Okay.
Audience, I will make you feel comfortable with this.
Close your blinds. Close your blinds. Shout out everyone. Make sure your mum doesn't come in. We want a proper atmosphere here. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Go.
Right, so this story is titled "So I Tried to F a Ghost." I don't know if I'm allowed to say this word, but
I don't. Well, we've said it already, but don't say it. You know what? Don't say it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll start here. First, a little backstory. My girlfriend had just dumped me, and naturally, I was feeling rather upset. I'd rewatched both Legally Blonde movies and ate approximately 2 tubs of icing, but I was still down. One night, at around 11, I heard my dog barking out the window. I came into the living room and looked out with him to see only nothing. There was nothing outside. No cars, no animals, no people. But he seemed more distressed than usual. His fur was standing straight up. And his bark turned more into a whine. Then, completely unprompted, he started jumping and turning his head around to look out the window at a more extreme angle. He was clearly following something, and after a few seconds of turning, he jumped up and sprinted towards the back door. Mind you, our back door is entirely made out of glass, and he ran into it. He bounced back up and started aggressively barking at it and jumping up on his hind legs. I've had this dog for 3 years, and I knew this is how he barks when the mailman, or any other person he doesn't know, walks by. I think I'm justified in saying I was kind of unsettled by this, especially when he began running rapidly between the 2 windows. Dogs don't start randomly barking if there isn't something they feel threatened by. By this point, my mum had come out of our room to see what was going on, and we looked out the front window. After a few minutes of looking, we see the motion-activated lights go on. Now, my first response is, fuck, there's something trying to get into the house. So I start locking all the doors and windows while my mum checks the security camera. Absolutely nothing. There was nobody at our house, no animals, no people, no intruders. Or at least none that the cameras picked up. My mum and I, being spiritual people... Is there an echo in the background?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it, but it's really quiet, so just carry on. Keep in the mood.
Okay. Immediately assume it's a ghost. She's unsettled by this and starts to go grab the holy water. It's a strange thing to have a line about. But I tell her not to worry. It was probably a bat or something that flew above the cameras. I don't know much about ghosts, but at that point, my weird mix of sadness and sexual frustration had me wanting to let whatever was outside into our house. I always wanted a haunted house story, and I'd heard stories of people having sex with ghosts, so I figured I'd give that a try. I admit I probably looked batshit crazy calling out into the night something along the lines of, "Come in, guys, it's warm in here, we won't kick you out." But long story short, I now had a ghost in my house. The first hint that whatever was outside had come inside was my dog. Immediately after that night, he got fidgety and restless and began barking a lot more than usual. The second hint was my door. One night I was resting. It was about 2 in the morning and I'd just finished work. I'm in bed trying to sleep when my door violently flings open. Mind you, all the windows in my room were closed, and a giraffe would not have gotten it open with such intensity. The sound of the door hitting my wall was so loud that it woke up my dad, who promptly asked, "What the fuck is going on in there?" I didn't know how to answer him. I wasn't the one who opened that door. The next morning, he asked me about it, and I just told him I must have been sleepwalking or something. This continued every single day for about 2 weeks. I knew enough was enough when the hinges on my door began to come apart, causing it to tilt and drag on my floor, scratching it. This pissed off my parents even more, and I too was getting annoyed by being woken up in the middle of every night. So I, like any sensible human being, decided to make the best out of a shitty situation. I was going to fuck the ghost. Firstly, I felt that it was rude to
Natural.
fuck somebody I did not know. So I gave the energy a name, Karen. I tried
Oh.
talking to Karen through my tarot cards, and then through my pendulum, and then through mirror scrying. I don't know what that is. Do either of you?
No.
No.
Oh, well. Those
Continue.
conversations didn't really go anywhere, so I decided to do it the old-fashioned way. That night, like every night, I heard my door slam open. Immediately, I took off all my clothes and removed my covers. Did I look crazy? Yes. Did I care? No, not really. For a little bit of context, I take sleeping pills regularly to help me fall asleep, and at this point, they just started kicking in. My words were slightly slurred, but I turned to the doorway, running my hand along my torso. I told whatever was standing there, "Hey, Karen, wanna fuck? Because I'm down if you're down." The door just stayed open, so I continued. "Oh, come on, Karen. It must be lonely out there, being a spirit and all. Don't be scared. I won't hurt you." I watched the door intently, and for the first time ever, it began to creep close. It continued and eventually shut. I was terrified, but also let down. If you think being rejected by a human person is hard, imagine being rejected by a ghost. Damn.
A human person.
Karen never opened my door again. The end.
Oh.
So she didn't then.
No, I know, it's a lie, isn't it?
It's a lie.
It's a provocative title for no reason.
Very
Well, no,
to be
to be fair, it
I
did
think
try
all
to
of it's
fuck
a
a ghost.
lie, to be honest.
I'm glad there
Did
were no
try to
details.
fuck a ghost. Yeah.
Right,
Well,
so
would have been a
if-
lot of ectoplasm.
I mean, I was actually
How does
thinking.
he even know it was a female ghost?
He doesn't.
Oh.
He doesn't. I'm not even sure the person was a he either, to be honest, because he said he was watching both Legally Blonde films and got through 2 tubs of ice.
True,
Could
actually. Yeah.
have just been a lesbian.
Well, that was an interesting start.
It is going to be. I mean, I think mine are a bit more scary than that. I'd give that, in terms of a
You
creepy
reckon?
rating, I'd give that a 1. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it was meant to be scary, to be honest, Age.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep the mood light and breezy,
Yeah.
Okay, right. I've got quite a short one here. It's like sort of it's just more of
Tom
an
didn't give a
informative-
rating. Tom didn't give a rating.
Oh yeah, Tom.
Are
give
we
a rating.
rating them?
Creepiness? Yeah.
Creepiness, yeah.
On creepiness, out of 10, I'd give it 2.
2.
Yes.
Blimey.
Yeah, 2 because it had a ghost in it.
Big dubber, darling.
Yeah, well, right. Anyway, I think the first 2 I've got are like sort of more like informative, like from the outside in, like sort of mysteries or like. I think all of my later ones are sort of people like telling their own story from their perspective. So I think these early ones I'm doing, they're definitely. I think they're like more reliably real. So the first one, the picture I've got is it's called the Villisca House Axe Murder House in Villisca Lower. I think that's in America somewhere, and it's got like a sort of a bungalow with one of those old like sort of porches. It's like quite an old looking house that's sort of out of the way. On June the 10th, 1912. Josiah and Sarah Moore were bludgeoned to death inside their home in Villisca Lower, or Iowa. Damn, that must be really triggering for some people. Their 4 children and 2 friends were spending the night.
Wait, did you just try and pronounce the place Iowa lower?
Yeah, because it was a capital. I'm trying to make a mood here, Tom. Their 4 children and 2 friends who were spending the night were also killed. And to this day, the crime remains a mystery. Their house is also considered one of the most haunted houses in the country, and guests are drawn to it. People even pay $400+ to stay for one night. This is a quote. Tours have been cut short by children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects, end quote, says the Villisca Axe Murder House website. And in 2014, a paranormal investigator stabbed himself after spending the night. Skeptics have been left believers, adds the website, and then right at the bottom it says book now. I swear to God.
Shall we go?
Yeah, unless you've got any other comments, creepiness rating.
I wasn't all that creeped out because how you read
Yeah,
it was a
I'd
little
say,
bit
like-
weird.
Well, it's
Maybe
because
like
I'm getting interrupted.
I'd feel rude giving it the same as Rory's, so I'd say a 3.
Yeah, I'm happy to stand on like a 3-4.
3. Okay, 3. We'll keep our standards high
Yeah.
in case there's a really good
Well, you
one
have
coming
to
up.
be, yeah.
Do you want to go, Tom?
Mhm.
All right. Well, this one is called Roommate Troubles. Okay.
Mhm.
I read this one
So
earlier.
it started. Did you?
Yeah, but carry on.
Well, it starts off with by saying this actually happened to this person a few years back at the University of Arts in Philadelphia.
Cool.
So, my sophomore year, I roomed with a girl named Cara. She was a jazz vocalist, but her main interest was opera. We had a small room on the 6th floor of the dormitory called Juniper Hall. The walls were thin, and her last night's singing and voice practices would keep me up late. I assume that means late night singing.
Late night, yeah.
Yeah, but it says last. After a month or so of lost sleep, I convinced her to move her late night practices to the music studios in the Merriam Theatre building a block away. Around 8 one evening, Cara announced that she would be practicing late for an upcoming recital. Probably wouldn't be home until around midnight. Great, I thought. This means I can go to bed early. Brackets. I was beat. I had a horrible day in the acting studio and was ready to pass out as soon as I had dinner. She said goodnight and left. I made some grilled cheese and soup, gobbled it down, and immediately began to prepare for bed. By the time I had got out of the shower, my eyelids were so heavy I could hardly brush my teeth. I pulled on my PJs and crawled into the top bunk of our bunk bed. I was out as soon as my head hit the pillow. I should take a second to describe the layout of our apartment. When entering the apartment, the bedroom was through a door immediately to the left. Our bathroom was inside the bedroom, just past the bunk beds. Brackets, UArts is nice in the sense that you don't have to share bathrooms. Anyway, I woke up to the sound of the apartment door closing. I opened my eyes and groggily checked my phone. Midnight on the dot. I rolled back over and closed my eyes. I heard Cara enter the room and stop in front of the bunk bed, checking to see if I'm actually asleep, I thought. She flopped down on the bed below me, which was strange, as she was a stickler for brushing her teeth and washing up before bed. Then again, exams were just around the corner, and we were all exhausted. The mattress below me creaked. Then there was silence. I couldn't even hear her breathing. I started to drift off again. I was just on the edge of deep sleep when I was startled awake again by a noise. A key in the lock, the door opening, and Cara entering our apartment, humming an opera tune. The mattress below me creaked.
Blimey.
I think that would have been better for me if I hadn't read that earlier.
Probably would have been
Oh.
better if they could spell late as well.
Yeah, I think. Oh, you read that well. I think, but I'd still say like because there were a couple of moments where I kind of zoomed out of it a bit. I'd probably give it like a 4.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think
that's
4's
number one
probably-
so far.
Probably about right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
I
going
think
steadily up. Yeah.
I think that's my longest one.
Okay. Yeah. I think.
Actually,
Yeah.
maybe not.
I've got right. I've got quite a few. I've got quite a few little short ones. I think. Wait, how many? I've only copied and pasted like 2 of them, so I only actually liked 2 of them. But I can go onto the website that I found, so if I need any more. Right,
Is
this
it-
one's called Shh.
Oh right.
So shush, basically. But this is
Yeah,
a very
Marcos.
very short one. This is a very short one. This is just sort of like a conceptual one. When I was a teenager, I used to babysit my cousin Alyssa. She was little, maybe almost 2, maybe a little older, old enough to say sentences. I'm giving her a bath before bed when she looks out of the hallway and gets a terrified look on her face and starts crying. At this moment, my aunt's Pomeranian, this dog, starts going nuts as well, barking and growling into the hallway. The atmosphere in the room becomes uncomfortable, and I start getting scared. I took her downstairs from the 3rd floor in the townhouse to try and calm her down. I asked her what was wrong. She said something along the lines of, "The man with black eyes was there." When I continued to pry, she looked up at the 2nd floor stairs, her eyes getting big, and looks at me, bringing a finger up to her mouth and says, shh, while shaking her head no. That's my short story.
No.
Oh, got right to it. Right to it. Well, just because you gave me a 4, I'll say 4 as well.
What do you mean? Just because? Was it not good then?
I've got a proper reason. I'd probably go 4 or 5 as well. To be fair, I didn't find it that creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
I like that you had to say Pomeranian, a dog.
Yeah, well, I'd never heard of a Pomeranian before that.
Have you ever heard of Iowa?
No.
Oh my god! We'll put that in the basket with Split, and where else was it you didn't know?
I've been to America once, and I went to Florida. Sorry, 23% of the audience, or something like that. But I just don't really know. So anyway,
let's have a look at a map, mate. I'll go next.
Yeah, you're next. Right, go.
Right, this one is called "Kids in the Dark" by Slam Beast.
Ooh,
Slam Beast.
Slime. I just said it in American twang.
Oh,
yeah, he's a slammy little beast. Right. Growing up poor in the deep south meant sharing a lot with my little brother, Ollie. Shout out Ollie McCabe. Most often, we'd pass toys, clothes, and skin conditions between us. Up until he was 6, we even shared a bed. Neither of us was happy about that. It was my 10th birthday when that changed. I got one present that year, and it was a bed of my own. Ollie was jealous right away, and I could understand why. He had to keep that half broken down frame with that worn out mattress. The one I'd gotten wasn't much better, but not being broken and warm was enough. Sleeping apart was a great feeling. It was freedom. No longer would I have to suffer the sudden and inexplicable kicks to the stomach. No longer would I wake up with Ollie's foot pressed into my neck like he'd stepped on Dracula the night before. At least, that's what I thought. Right away, right after I got the new bed, the shriek started. At first, I thought Ollie woke up in the middle of the night and screamed because he'd gotten scared. Then, the sound echoed through the tiny room again, and I knew it wasn't a normal cry. The room was always black as pitch after sunset. The one window he had was pressed against a long-leaf pine, and even the biggest, brightest moon cast no light inside. The shriek just about drove me crazy. Every night, probably at the same exact time, these sharp yelps would knock me right out of my dreams. It wasn't my mum or dad yelling either. I knew what that sounded like. Believe me! Most worrying of all was the fact that I could never tell where it was coming from. It seemed completely random. One night it'd come from somewhere near the closet, the next it'd shoot out from a corner of the ceiling. Any hope I'd had of having my own space would get dashed every time, as Ollie would silently slip into the bed with me, shaking like crazy. He clasped onto me and wouldn't let go until it was almost daybreak. Most times I'd take his hand and tell him everything was going to be okay. That it'd be over by morning, but I was never really sure. Over time, the shrieks started changing. At first it was only by small degrees, but eventually it took on a primal hooting sound of a primate calling out its fierce warning. I had to clasp pillows to my ears just to keep from going deaf. Mum and Dad never believed me or Ollie, because the thing, whatever it was, refused to make a peep when they were in the room. Apparently they couldn't even hear it through the walls, even though it was damn sure loud enough. The shriek just got worse and worse until I felt like I couldn't take it anymore. Me and Ollie were doing really bad in school. We just had no energy at all. I could sleep more deeply with my head propped up and my eyes open in the middle of class than in my own room at night. Then thankfully, we moved out of the house nearly a year later. I had contemplated all sorts of things, even a child's clumsy concept of suicide, to get away from the horrific nightly noise. There was no problem at the next house. There was a nice, white, cookie-cutter home on a dead-end street, and I welcomed the normalcy. What's normalcy? What's more, when we moved in there was a bunk bed waiting for me and Ollie. No more broken bed. No more second bed I ended up having to share anyway. The only problem was deciding who'd get the top bunk. I told Ollie I deserved it. After all, I'd gotten a new bed way back, and he ruined it by climbing in every night. What? He shook his head. I never did that. I'd always wondered why the noise stopped the second I was sharing my bed. Now I had the answer. That's it.
I was gonna say that was quite creepy, and then I thought, oh, he probably just sleepwalked, so he probably doesn't remember it. That's all.
It's probably a ghost, considering
Could be that.
Oh yeah.
I reckon it's.
Let's say
it
for
is a creepypasta, so it's meant to be a ghost.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. It was a ghost. Oh, that's really. I'd
Look, a
I'd
ghost.
give that a five or a
She
6.
was over there.
Nice.
There was a ghost. It was really scary.
A fucking ghost.
A woman
An
died.
ectoplasm.
what are you giving it, Tom?
I think that's my favourite so far. I'd be inclined to give it a 6.
Oh, it's a knee slide. That is a knee slide across the room.
I'm saying 5 just because I reckon it was sleepwalking, and I reckon you just can't remember it. It was like the thing because I think I told Tom about this. It was there was a ghost story that I read while I was trying to find some good ones, and it was like the 3rd most upvoted one on the whole of Reddit. And in the first like paragraph, the first few sentences, it was like I've been smoking some weed, and it was like, well, that explains everything, then, doesn't it? If you're smoking weed, then it probably wasn't a ghost. It was probably your own horrific mind. So there we go.
Well,
I reckon I've got. Depending on
It's
how
my
long you
go,
want to make
mate.
this. Yeah, no, I'm just saying in general. I don't. How many stories have you got? Because I've got one that I think's good, and then I want to save that till last.
I've got another 3 or 4. I'd say that I would happily say
Mm.
talk about.
Okay, yeah,
Cut
go.
2 out of mine.
Well, I realised that the one Rory just said. I looked at the title when I was researching mine, and I read the last paragraph to see if it was creepy, and I decided I didn't want to do it because it was quite long. So I feel like he might have read some of the same ones as me. But this one is
Possible.
called the statue.
I've read this.
Okay. You can have my raw reaction then.
It's quite a short one. A few years ago, a mother and a father decided they needed a break. So they wanted to head out for a night out on the town. They called their most trusted babysitter. When the babysitter arrived, the 2 children were already fast asleep in bed. So the babysitter just got to sit around and make sure everything was okay with the children. Later that night, the babysitter got bored and went to watch TV, but she couldn't watch it downstairs because they did not have cable downstairs. The parents didn't want the children watching too much garbage, so she called them and asked them if she could watch cable in the parents' room. Of course, the parents said it was okay. The babysitter had one final request. She asked if she could cover up the angel statue outside the bedroom with a blanket or a cloth because it made her nervous. The phone line went silent for a moment, and the father, who was talking to the babysitter at the time, said, "Take the children and get out of the house. We'll call the police. We don't have an angel statue." The police found both of the children and the babysitter slumped in pools of their own blood within 3 minutes of the call. No statue was found.
Damn. I have heard that one before. That's like the sort of one you definitely like people just kind of share randomly outside of the Reddit pages. It's quite famous.
Probably.
I do like that one though. I don't remember it being an angel statue. I think it was might have been something else.
I thought about doing that one, but then I read it and it was the guy on the phone went, "We don't own an angel statue," and it just made me laugh. It just seemed an odd thing to say.
Could you imagine right in the last second if he was like, if the wife would just went, No, we do own the angel statue. We were trying to check it out. We got it out of the loft, didn't we?
The thing that I thought was questionable is when he said, "Get the children, get out of the house now," because of an angel statue.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
No idea. He has no idea about it, and he's like, "Oh God, they better leave the house because there's a statue."
Yeah, what a threat!
I don't know. I found it nice.
Angel.
I was soaked in enough on that. That story in particular, I was soaked in enough to sort of feel it without questioning that little detail. So I'd give that like a solid 7. I'd say. I find that creepy. I like how it all ties together.
I'm not
too long as well.
I'm not trying to be bitter. It just didn't really creep me out. I'd give that like a 5.
That's all right.
That's
all right.
Well, you know.
To be fair, statues are quite creepy. They can.
I don't think they should have done angel statue. I think they should have said like Or the dark silhouette
Gargoyle.
of a man, or something. Like, you should have got rid of the dark silhouette of a man, or something.
I don't think
But just like she calls him up and like, can I put a cloth over the dark silhouette
dark
of a man,
silhouette of a
please?
man.
It's creeping me out. We don't have a dark silhouette of a man.
Leave now.
There's an old man with someone else's skin stitched on his face and a chainsaw. Can I cover
Can I
up
put
that
a cloth
statue?
over him?
Can I put
Don't
a
like
cloth over him?
Can you imagine, like, there's a horde of zombies in your room. Can I cover them up with a cloth? So we own a horde of zombies. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I don't think that story would have worked much unless it was like a doll, maybe. Maybe it was Chucky.
I think a doll would have been better for that. That probably would have scared me more.
We don't own a dark silhouette of a man.
So what? We are like 2 each. We've done like 2 each. Do you want to do 2
Yeah.
more each? Because I think I like just pick our best 2.
Sounds good.
Right. I don't know whether to go for Demon in the Dark or the one, because there's one where I think it's like a decent story, but it's not that scary. So I don't know if I would go for it.
So yeah, that's what I'm
I'll
thinking.
go for the less scary one.
I'm thinking I'm not going to do Darkness in the Rearview Mirror because I don't think it's scary enough.
I think this one's slightly scary, but I don't
I've
think
read
it's
that
getting
one as
least
well,
like.
Tom.
Oh, fuck's sake! Did you just type in the same thing into Google?
I don't know. I just read on creepypastas and stuff.
I
Like
did
short
original research.
creepypasta.
Mm,
Carry
It's
on.
alright. It's alright, guys. It's alright, guys. I went a completely different route.
Go on,
No one
go
would have
on.
heard of my stuff.
Scare us.
This one's called Demon in the Dark. I actually can't remember what it was, so it might surprise me. Anyway, my family travelled to the south of France to stay in a cottage owned by. Wait, I tell you what. I wanted to do. No. I was just thinking to myself.
Bloody creepy. This
Right,
one.
Tom. Yeah, creepy.
Hang on. I was thinking to myself, I've got a new mic. I wanted to do some wind noise, so I've decided it was a windy day in the south of France. There we go. It was a windy day in the south of France to stay in cottage. Okay, they were in a cottage owned by someone my dad worked with. It was a particularly drafty cottage. The owners visited occasionally, but the summer it was free, and we had 10 days booked in there. After a long 2 days on the road, we drove down a steep driveway towards a secluded mill cottage, with the water wheel sat static alongside the stone house. There was a deep cellar with stone stairs down under the wheel next to the house, and a small river circled the place. We went into the house and chose rooms, but being set down in a small copse, I don't know what that is, but the house was draught and cold from a lack of use. There we go. It was drafty. We settled in and turned all of the heating on, yet the house remained cold and felt damp and windy. The first night, we had set a fire in the living room and listened to a couple of audiobooks before my sister and I went to sleep. My parents stayed up a little longer, then we went to bed. Around midnight, they both woke up at exactly the same time, and the door to their bedroom was opening slowly. At first, they thought it was my sister, until they saw a large, dark silhouette of a man framed in the doorway, standing stock still, just looking in their direction as if appraising them. After a short period, the shape turned and started to move as if satisfied, and disappeared. They looked at each other, but didn't speak, and both went back to sleep. The next morning, the house felt warm and dry, and the sunlight was back through the windows as if something had lifted and accepted them. They spoke the next day and both agreed that although they were skeptics, it could not have been anything other than something supernatural in that doorway, deciding their worth. End.
Why on earth would they both wake up and see a dark silhouette of a man?
And not
in
put
their
a cloth
door?
over it?
Yeah. But in their door, they just both look at each other and go, yeah, and it just goes back to sleep.
Well, they might. I don't know. I think that they might have had a conversation. They might just not have included that in the. I don't know.
It would have been so much
Someone
better
get a cloth.
if they saw it. They were like, "Quick, the cloth!"
Wait a second, darling. We don't own a dog silhouette of a man.
I mean, okay, fair enough. That like, it's supernatural. You're not supposed to be able. It's not supposed to be like ordinary. Like, or why didn't they have a conversation? It might have scared them so much, or they might have. It might have been like they might have been half asleep, or I don't know. You know, you never know, do you?
You never.
So what do we reckon creepy rated?
Because of the faulty start and the wind,
Yeah.
it took me out of the moment. I think
Definitely.
So I'd give it a 4.
I'll be nice and I'll give it a 5.
All right.
He's not happy with that.
No, I'm not. Go on, Rory.
Okay, my one is a real story from my mum that she told me. She's told me quite a few times.
This isn't
Wooded
your best
Demon.
one, is it, Rory? This isn't your like finale one.
Well, I don't know because I'll just read it. I don't want to ruin anything, but no, this isn't my finale.
Okay.
Is it the Wooded
Right.
Demon from when we were on holiday?
God damn it!
All right.
No, it's not. It's not. Right. When my mum was 16, she was home alone. Her parents had left to go and visit her grandmother in Hampshire, who was pretty much on her deathbed. I can't remember what with. She fell asleep around 10, 11-ish, by her recollection anyway, and in the middle of the night, well, it wasn't the middle of the night, it was 5:30, she woke up to her grandmother beside her bed. She had like a greyish hue to her. And I think because she was a teenager, and you know, when you're a teenager, you don't really. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you're more annoyed that you're awake than that something's there. And she just sort of fell back to sleep.
Why have you woken me up?
Yeah, and then she woke up in the morning, obviously confused, thinking it was a dream or whatever, and got a call from her mum saying that her grandmother had died this morning at 5:30.
Oh, blimey. That sounded a lot like one of the. That was a very similar story to something I read.
I wrote it out. To be fair, my mum told me the details, and I decided to write it in a little paragraph.
I wonder if it's almost demeaning to give it a creepy rating after it's literally been told by your mum. That wasn't really that creepy. You need to do better.
No, it's fine. I mean, she didn't tell it to me for it to be creepy. It's just I just thought it'd be interesting to add a real story in.
I'll give it like a. I'll give it. It's more of an interesting than a creepy, so I'll probably give it like a 4 because of the realism. Because of the realism, that boosts it.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking because it's. I mean, it's
because we
the
know
only one that's actually we can corroborate the story with. So
yeah,
I'd say like a 5 or a 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
you say it was
in the doorway was less scary than a grandmother sitting on the corner of a bed.
Yeah.
Well,
you would say
you
think it was more scary than I tried to fuck a ghost then.
Most
Obviously.
definitely.
You would say, okay.
It sounded more like erotica.
Erotica.
No. Right. Who's next? Is it Tom?
I believe so.
It's Tom, right? Yeah.
So, I'll ask you: do you want to hear Cottage Weekend or the school bus?
School bus.
I haven't heard either of these, so yeah, go school bus.
All right.
You already
this
had
one's
a
quite
short.
one. I sat on the bus on my way to school, listening to music and paying little to no attention to the other students. At one of the stops, my mind snapped back to reality. Up there goes gravity. I looked towards the small house, Tommy's house, I thought.
Oh, I have heard this one. Sorry.
A hand slipped through the drapes of the window and waved at the bus. He's sick, I thought, paying no large amount of attention to the situation. The day flew by. I watched the local news after school, and I heard that Tommy's family had been murdered that morning by an unknown suspect. After hearing the news, I moved back up to my room and quietly fell asleep. The next day, I sat on the bus. We drove past Tommy's house, and the bus driver, unaware of Tommy's family's fate, stopped at his home. As I was about to get up and explain to her what had happened, something caught my eye. A pale hand slipped through the drapes of the window and waved the bus to move on. I sat on the bus, terrified.
Chills.
I wanted to change that, but I couldn't
Authenticity, Tom.
improvise. I couldn't improvise enough because I wanted to change it so that the hand that moved them on was actually the murderer and not a ghost. And then the second time, you didn't see anything, but I didn't improvise it well enough, and I didn't prepare.
I wouldn't improvise it anyway because we want the real account, don't we? What? Yeah, no, it was fairly creepy. I did think with the drapes, it was like someone. It looked like he had been kept at bay by some cloth. Looked like he was trying to get his hand through. And a cloth had stopped him from managing to get out completely.
I figured out if cloths are the best weapon against ghosts.
Yes.
But they wear cloths, don't they? That's yeah.
I think that's a stereotype that ghosts wouldn't be happy with.
That is a disgusting stereotype, Henry.
That's how you learn. You review stereotypes, and that's how you learn in life.
You're a discriminatory, disgusting boy. Right, we need the next one.
Okay, well, we need to race it. I'll give that 6.
Oh, I'll give that a 5.
I really hope Rory hasn't heard my last one. I don't think you have. Did you read Cottage Weekend?
I don't know.
Okay, cool.
I can't remember.
I will go for my last one then. It's called Family Reunion. This was a Reddit story told by Big Challa. I don't know if that's like a thing on Black Panther or something.
Big
Challa. It's like the user's name is Big Challa, like spelled
T'Challa.
Like T'Challa.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a reference of that, but anyway, right. One day when my daughter was 2. We were having a typical terrible twos moment. She was throwing a bit of a tantrum for about 5 to 10 minutes, so we couldn't get her under control. At some point, she, rather suddenly, stopped and started staring at the wall. She then started lightly giggling. It was weird. 1 second she is crying and screaming, and the next she's smiling and happy. Then she starts saying "funny lady" over and over. We asked her who she saw, and she pointed to the wall again and said "the funny lady." When we asked her to describe who she saw, she described my deceased grandmother. I mean, exactly described her. She had never met her, and I don't think had ever seen her in a picture. Not that a 2-year-old could remember a picture. I'm not much of a believer in the paranormal, but I know for sure that my daughter got a chance to meet my mum, and that makes me happy. When I told the story to my parents, they didn't seem as shocked as I was. When I tried to get a response from them, they looked at me and said, "I guess you don't remember that you met your deceased grandfather when you were 3. The same exact thing happened to you 30 years ago." Not quite the music I'd do, Tom, for that. What do we reckon?
Yeah, it was decent.
It's the whole thing that it's because it happened to her as well. The mum, it happened to her when she was a kid.
No, I
did like that. I did like that.
That was a nice tie-in. I agree.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 6. Okay,
yeah, I think that's probably my first 6.
I can agree with that.
That's my first 6.
Don't be a sheep, Tom.
All right,
so I'm the only one who's given out a 7. I'm the only one who's given out a 7 then.
7 or higher, yeah.
Well, obviously easily scared, aren't you?
Yeah, it's hard for stories like this to be really creepy.
Are you scared?
There are some that are, but they're really long. Sound like James McAvoy on that CBeebies thing.
Hello.
Are you ready for bed?
James.
Yeah,
you got your teddy bear with you.
Yeah. Right. Tom and Rory. I think Rory said he's got the best one. So do you want to go again, Tom? We wanted to save Rory's one for the finale.
I didn't say I had the best one. I said I tried to find the best one, but either way, I've got a decent one.
Okay.
All right. Well, I can say Cottage Weekend now.
Okay.
Rob brings a girl to our annual cottage weekend for the first time in 8 years. rounding out our group to an even 6. Initially, we were wary of including someone we didn't quite know, but it isn't too long before she wins us over with her friendly, laid-back personality. And, as a bonus, she brought with her salted caramel cupcakes, an after-dinner treat that we devour as we sit around a campfire exchanging the scariest stories we've ever heard. You go first, new girl, we encourage.
Ooh.
She shakes her head. I'd actually like to go last, if you don't mind. I want to hear all your stories first. Most of our tales are urban legends. Humans can lick too. Aren't you glad you didn't turn out the light? And several versions of a couple meeting an unfortunate fate while trapped in a car at the dead of night. Then it's her turn. Honestly, stories with blood and gore don't scare me. They're so over the top, so implausible, that they're more ridiculous than they are frightening. What's scary to me are the mindfucks, she continues, tapping her index finger on her temple. The unexpected, the unknown. No ghosts, mind you, or chain-wielding maniacs, but ordinary people like you or I. For example, a stranger spends a weekend at the cottage with her boyfriend and his friends, she says as she holds up her uneaten cupcake and feeds them some homemade pastries. See, that one's not a ghost story. I thought I'd switch it up a little bit.
How creepy.
Wait, hang on. Was that actually the punchline that she fed them pastries? Because she didn't say anything malicious.
Do you
Were they
not get the
poisoned?
point? She
Well, they-
says as she holds up her uneaten cupcake.
As in, she's poisoned them or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's implied. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay,
What?
let me change it. For example, a stranger spends a weekend at the cottage with her boyfriend and his friends as she holds up her uneaten cupcake and feeds them some poisonous homemade pastries.
Whoa! Scary.
Ah!
Thank you, thank you.
Well, I tell you what, I was about to give it a 5, but like I was probably about a 9. After
Tom,
that.
I am turtling after that, mate. That was very scary.
Right,
I'm shaking
thank
like a
you,
leaf.
thank you.
I am shaking like a leaf. Oh no, to be fair, I give that a good 6 again. It was
Yeah, I give
decent.
that a 6. I thought it was well written.
Mm,
Thank
good
you.
stuff.
I have to say.
Yeah, good stuff. Whoever wrote that one, or whoever. Actually, I suppose that's probably not real because unless it was told by
Yeah.
the murderer,
Yeah,
in which case
yeah.
he's in prison now. So yeah, well written rather than a good account of a real event.
I think that one was just fictional, but I just wanted to switch it up a little bit.
Mm. Oh, now I can't put true ghost stories in the title even.
You
No.
can just
That was
with a little
my
asterisk.
plan. Other than Tom's.
Just put
This-
a little
this-
asterisk.
This next one isn't true, by the way, but
Okay, fine. All right, well, no asterisks then. Right, go on.
Right, so this one's called Candle
G.A.D.
Cove.
Wind.
Well, to be
Wait,
fair,
what
we
was that?
might
Wait,
need
what was that called?
Candle Cove.
Oh, I read that one.
Can you
Oh, for God's
can you-
sake.
can you give me a
I'll-
key word for when I should do
yeah.
wind?
I'll say Shirley, and then you do it.
Okay.
Right, so this one is in the shut up. This one is in the format of a forum, okay? So the first person that talks is called Sky, the second person is called Mike. I will tell you when, but it's meant to be like they're chatting in a forum.
Okay.
Okay. So the first post says Sky Shale 033 Candle Cove local kids show is the subject. Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove and it must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 72. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember that it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. Mike replies, "It seems very familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland, and I was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl." Sky replies, "Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll, looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station that was, and I don't think it was WTSF though." Jaren, new character, comes in here. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Sky Shao. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple of months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was Channel 58, whatever station that was. Mum would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was a Calliope music constantly playing. Don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something? I think it was Janice. Sky then replies, "Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock and Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face, with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Haha, I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Sky Shell? You have to go inside." Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in. Like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was. And the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw and a fishing line that opened and closed it. Ugh, it looks so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar moustache above really tall, narrow teeth. New character called Kevin Hart's replied here. I honestly thought that the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when this show was on. Nightmare fuel. Jaren replies, that wasn't the villain. The puppet was the moustache. That was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the moustache. I used to think that he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette. The Skin Taker? I can't believe what they let us watch back then. Kevin Hart replies, Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of kids show were we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing the brown top hat and cape, and his glass eyes that were too big for his skull. Christ almighty. Sky responds, wasn't he top hat and cloak all sewn up crazy? Was it supposed to be the children's skin? Mike replies, yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close. His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, why does your mouth move like that? And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl, but at the camera and said, to grind your skin. Skyshare replies, I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended. The show faded in from black and all the characters were there. But the camera was just cut into each of their faces and they were just screaming. And the puppets and marionettes were playing about spastically and just all screaming. The girls were just moaning and crying like she'd been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin Hart replies, I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode. Sky, no, not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin Hart, maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Jaren, oh God, yes, the little girl Janice. I remember seeing her shake and the Skin Taker screaming through his gnashing teeth. His jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. This one's quite a lot later and it's from Mike Painter. I visited my mum today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kids show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why. And she said, because I used to think it was so strange that you said, I'm going to go watch Candle Cove now, Mum. And then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show. And that's it.
Whoa. I was actually queuing myself for the wind, but it never came. So
that was. Oh, sorry, I completely. Do it now. Shirley. Oh.
Well, no, that was a good story. I got to admit, I did get bored, but the punchline was very good.
Yeah,
The
yeah, it was a little
punchline-
bit too.
I was wondering what the punchline would be. I was
It was,
surprised
it
that
was a
Kevin
good
Hart
it
joined
wasn't a
in.
letdown. It wasn't a letdown of a punchline, so that was good. Like, because I've definitely heard stuff like that where the punchline was all right, but not good
Yeah.
enough considering how long the story was. But that one was quite good. So I'd maybe give that like a 7 or like a 7.5.
Yes!
I think that's the best one. I'd give it an 8.
Yes.
Nice little round off.
Mm.
So
Yes,
well, glad you
boys.
said that was a
Well, I
laugh.
think cumulatively, Henry came last, which is
I'm not
Doster,
surprised.
use you on this show.
I was a bit worried that my stories weren't that scary. But you know,
oh,
I think with ghost stories, just a lot of them are a bit like they're just interesting more than they're scary half the time.
yeah.
So like
Oh,
when
I've
you
seen-
talk
One
about ghost
was
stories,
proper triggering my imagination. Like was picturing everything.
Mm. There's
Good.
there's a podcast I've been listening to a lot lately called the No Sleep Podcast, and I think that's sort of what's triggered me suggesting to do this, because they just sort of get voice actors in to read out Reddit stories, and it's really good. It's really scary. They obviously know how to, I don't know, get it across in a way that they know will scare you. But yeah, it can be done well. I don't know. We're not professional voice actors, are we? So
Yeah, if you couldn't tell.
I do like that one about the I know it's become a bit of a meme now, the cloth, but that one with the cloth I did like that though. I did like this sort of the whole concept. I think if I hadn't listened to that before, I'd have probably put that a bit higher.
Mm.
But I like
you,
the
thank
whole
you.
concept of that.
I like that it was short and sweet.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Nice.
it captured my attention because it wasn't trying to set the scene for too much, you know.
Yeah, and it just immediately reminded me of Weeping Angels and when I was 7 and them scarring me.
Oh yeah, Weeping Angels was horrific. There was the Matt Smith one and the David Tennant one, and they were. I can't actually decide which one was scarier. Probably the David Tennant one.
David Tennant. It sort of reminded me of like Alien and Aliens. Like the first one is the horror film, and then the second one is the action. So the David Tennant one is like the horror, and then the Matt Smith one is more action heavy than scary.
Yeah, fair enough.
The second one scared me more, from what I remember. When she like, is it Amy that he's with in that one? When she goes blind in that forest.
Yeah. Was it the one where they're like, oh, they're not casting any shadows or something like that? It's like, why aren't they casting any shadows?
No, it's like why if they have 3 heads, so why don't the statues or something?
Oh yeah, that's it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I remember thinking that was really, really cool.
That was a really
Mm.
The shadow one's the Vashta Nerada in the library.
A bit like the
Good scary episodes of Doctor Who.
was that Rory you just left?
I don't know. I would like to point out that like 10 minutes into recording, Brad joined and said Craig is a pussy.
Did it?
Yeah, I saw that. I
Yeah.
just ignored it. But
Wait, the chat or the actual?
Roy's very quiet.
yeah, I could hear you, Rory, but you're quite quiet. But I wonder whether we should round off there because I reckon it's just going to go downhill now. Rory's got all quiet.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
thank
think,
you.
well,
I reckon this will be the least. Weirdly, because I think we want to make it a bit some scary episodes. I reckon this will be the least scary of the 5 episodes we got planned for October.
I'm not sure it'd be the least scary.
I've forgotten what the ideas are now. We've got 4 of
We
them.
won't give them
Yeah,
away, but
We're not going to reveal them. It's going to be a sort of a 3 o'clock surprise. I mean, obviously, we release our episodes at 6, but we do we sort of do the preview at 3 roughly.
yeah.
So at the time of recording, it's about 20 to 3. So we'll do our little hype post in a second. But yeah, thanks for coming for the first episode of the Halloween month. The what was the hashtag Rory thought of earlier? Bring a horror movie.
Bring a horror story or something.
Bring a horror story. Yeah, that'll be the hashtag. Get the hashtag booming. Get the hashtag booming, then we'll get loads of followers.
Get us trending on Twitter.
Yeah, that'll be mad. That's not gonna. Right. Anyway,
Won't happen, but yeah.
Podcast.
well, I think Rory's stuck in a well somewhere, so I think we should
Yeah,
probably.
it sounds like it. So.
That's probably the scariest thing that's happened so far.
Help!
Rory. Right. Anyway, thanks for coming to the Bring It podcast. See you later.
Yeah.